Strong, that the Sustainability Update 2021, this document, is designed to provide an update on the progress of carbon neutral by 2030 roadmap.
Yes, Senator.
Okay, thank you. That was quick, Chair. I note the new document reproduces the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So we're all the way with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Is Meat and Livestock Australia endorsing the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals relevant to the Meat and Livestock Association, which I believe is 8 of the goals? Is that correct?
No, Senator, it's not our position to endorse those goals. We're just referencing them in the program, so if people are aware of those broader commitments that have been made by the UN, for example, they can see where the activities in CN30 line up with that.
So is that driving you in any way? Guiding you?
Like I said, Senator, it's just a reference.
Just a reference, okay. So you've got here in prime position on page 5, sustainability, Australian red meat and livestock industry alignment with global goals.
So it's referencing those goals. So
but you're aligned with it?
Well, it's a reference. It's just saying, so the goal is to be CN30 as an industry. And I think the important part of that document, Senator, is what's on the front page. I think the statement's something like the driver's behind, no, the very front page, the driver, you might even want to read it out.
Our industry is driven to be, this is you're quoting you, our industry is driven to be productive and profitable, intergenerationally sustainable and leaving the environment in better shape. And then you go on to feature the UN sustainability goals.
The reason why we put that comment up front, though, Minister, Senator, is that's the most important part of it. Is that the efforts the efforts we have in this place and the focus that we have in this space are very much driven by the profitability and production of our producers and industry. Which
of the goals, UN sustainability goals, does red meat fit into?
I don't have that in front of me, Senator, and as I mentioned, it's just a reference. The more important piece of the things that we're investing in as a research and development corporation to support our producers and the industry to be more sustainable while they can still be productive and profitable. That's the focus of.
So you said while they can still be profitable, sustainability. Surely, if it was genuine sustainability, then they would be supported by that. It wouldn't be opposite. It's not productivity versus sustainability. If there's genuine sustainability, sustainability would help profitability. But your language betrays the UN. That's what the UN sustainability goals are not possible without subsidies. So the UN is really about profit or sustainability. Now, what is it?
We think it's both.
I don't have a position on the UN's role, okay. Minister, but Senator, sorry. But our view is that you can actually be profitable, productive and sustainable.
Okay, thank you. With the beef with the MLAs 8 that have been targeted in this document, which is not yours, the number of sustainable development goals to which each RDC contributes, there are 8 for the Meat and Livestock Australia. They are zero hunger, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life on the land, peace, justice and strong institutions. Have you got KPIs for each of those 8?
As I mentioned to start with, Senator, it's a reference to those goals. They're not goals that we've set.
Okay, let's get on to the nuts and bolts then. What's the average weekly adult consumption of red meat and red meat products in Australia?
Depends how it's measured, but the red meat and red meat products?
Yes.
Did you say?
Red meat products being sausages, mince.
Yeah, across all species, I'm not exactly sure, Minister. Actually, the total protein consumption is nearly 90 kilos, and red meat's the majority, the largest contributor to that. The beef consumption that comes out of the ABARES figures, which is as sold, is just over 19 kilos, which is the actual consumed.
Over what
product.
Period?
That's annually.
Annually, okay.
Yeah.
The United Nations is pushing for a 30% reduction in methane production by 2030. How will that affect Australian red meat production?
I'm not sure the two things are as closely connected as where you're heading, Senator. The commitments that the red meat sector has, and particularly the CN30 commitment, which was made in 2017, is about a path to being carbon neutral as far as the total contribution to the national greenhouse gas emissions inventory is concerned, and doing that in a way where the industry increases its production and profitability at the same time.
We need to get down to nuts and bolts because there's systems that drive behaviour, including farmers' behaviour. So the 2021 update says, and I'll quote it, the red meat sector has reduced carbon dioxide production by 53% since the 2005 baseline. What does that mean?
So that the current number is actually 59% now, Senator, and that's a number which has been calculated by CSIRO using the national greenhouse gas emissions. Yeah, by using the national greenhouse.
What does it mean?
CSIRO?
No. What does that statement mean? It's in your booklet.
So it's the reduction across the industry of the contribution to the national greenhouse gas emissions inventory.
Based on 2005?
Since the baseline of 2005.
So it's going below 2005?
In 2005, the contribution that the red meat sector made to the national greenhouse gas emissions inventory was just over 20%, and it's now just over 10%. That's what it means.
Can I just keep going through these? Unless I get the time.
I'll ask after you.
There's only 8 years left. We are where we are now, and what measures will be needed to get to 100%.
So where we are now, and as you mentioned, Senator, there's 8 years left on that goal that the industry set in 2017. So we've more than halved the contribution to the national greenhouse gas emissions inventory, and we've got, as you mentioned, the roadmap that lays out the things that we'll invest in and develop over the next 8 years to take us the rest of that journey.
So let me understand a bit more. Genetics, feed management, feedlot, fattening, as opposed to grass finishing, all help, right?
Yes.
Okay. But they're already doing these things, so close to saturation, as I understand it. So what else have you got?
They're not close to saturation, Senator. There's a long list of things. To date, we've invested between $140 and $150 million in research and development, and there's a runway roadmap for about the same level of investment over the next few years to head us towards that goal.
So isn't it what you've really got to do, what you're really going to have to do in order to reach a 100% reduction to 2005 levels by 2030 is to cut production?
No, Senator, not at all. Absolutely not.
Okay.
Yes.
So as I see it, this could be another major industry being derailed.
No,
the UN
Senator.
has put goals out with regard to food, and they're basically wanting to cut food. They've stated that. The UN has put out goals regarding different energy, which they really mean no energy. And the UN has put out different cars, electric vehicles. They really mean no cars for the masses. This is what they say. The UN has put out goals for... The UN calls for initially 500 grams per week of red meat, which is 70 grams per day. And they failed to get endorsement for much, much lower. That's what the UN's say.
So, Senator, I'm Managing Director of Meat and Livestock Australia. We're a service organisation for the Australian red meat sector.
Who are you serving?
We're committed to the productivity and profitability of the red meat sector, intergenerational sustainability of the sector, and leaving the environment in better shape. We are not aligned to the UN goals. We're not driven by the UN goals. We understand individuals' concern with those things. They are not the things that are driving our decisions or investments, which we make on behalf of the industry and with the industry. And our absolute focus is on the profitability and productivity and intergenerational sustainability of our sector.
So I understand that, last question, Chair, I understand that some of these documents have gone from being fairly prominent on MLA's website to being obscure.
No,
Okay. All right.
Not at all, Senator. More than happy to provide hard copies, soft copies,
I've got 'em.
links to, arrows to, points to, extra versions.
A way to increase profitability for a few
No,
is
Senator,
to cut the
no.
herd and dramatically increase the meat prices.
No, I'm aware of the comments that you made in the Senate about that, and Senator, that is absolutely not the truth. The commitment of MLA is about the long-term profitability and productivity of the sector and supporting the red meat production across the country.
So we won't have farmers scratching around, sitting in a town, relying on carbon credits, carbon dioxide credits, while the others make money.
I will have to remind you of the time, Senator Roberts.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
discipline.
Senator Still?
Yeah.
I just have a quick one.
Yeah,
Just
absolutely.
on the back of Senator Roberts' questions and just referring to the 57% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions from the Australian red meat industry that's referred there. What proportion of that reduction is due to deforestation changes or reforestation, whichever way you want to word it?
So it's 59, and I'm not exactly sure the proportion, Senator, but a chunk, it's a material chunk of that.
Well,
59.
it's strange that in your reports you sort of refer to the CSIRO, but you never break out the details of that report. When I go to that CSIRO report, it's a little bit hard to see because it's in graphs, not data, but it would appear over 80% of that reduction is due to the conversion of pastoral lands to forestry.
Well, the land use change measure, and like I said, Senator, I'm not exactly sure of the measure. It is material, and we'll get that number for you.
But the question here, Mr. Strong, is you're pumping out in your documents, very headline, that we've reduced emissions by 57%, when in fact, when you go to the detail, basically all of that is just due to largely state government laws, which have restricted pastoral activities across the country. That's not really what when you read your documents, that's not what you take away. You take away the message that somehow the cattle industry has been very focused on reducing emissions and has achieved this remarkable 57% reduction. To me, your documents are quite misleading.
That's certainly not the intent, Senator, okay. and it's not the only thing. There's a range of other things.
Oh, as I say, I've got the figure. I'm happy for you to take on notice, if you could.
More than happy to take that on notice.
And the figure I've got is 83% of those reductions are due to restriction to red tape placed on your sector. The red tape, may I say, that your industry and the industry bodies in this sector adamantly oppose and want to see changed.
Yeah, we'll get the number for you.
Thank you.
Senator. Yep.